All right. All right,
All right.
guys. Brooks Lennon in the house. So Brooks, just to give you a little rundown. So we're calling this Together Thursday. So
Okay.
obviously, as we're all sitting at home, stuck, having to train on our own and do our own thing, as a club, we thought it was really important to, obviously still continue to connect.
Hmm.
So most of our Thursdays, or many of our Thursdays, will be within our teams. But we figured this would be an awesome one. Sorry, there's my ugly mug that you can see. We thought it'd be great to have you, Alicia Jenkins, who you may know Alicia from Nike.
Um,
She's
yeah, no,
been
I haven't met her, but
okay.
I've read a lot about her.
Okay, yeah. Well, we know that you wear Nike boots still, I do believe, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I'm sure your paths will cross. So to give everybody a little background, so I first met Brooks Lennon in 2008, I think, roughly, when I moved to Arizona to coach at the club he was at. So that's how this connection was made. I've known Brooks since he was, I don't even know how, they would have probably made you 11, maybe. What, you're 98?
Yep.
Good Lord, so 10 years old. And he survived having to deal with me as a coach for a few years and definitely overcame. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming, dude. This is awesome. We really appreciate it. Glad you're safe and home, and obviously, hopefully we get through this crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
No, for sure.
Sure.
Thanks for having me on. And yeah, this is a great way to connect.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right, so kind of here's the plan, dude. I'm just gonna talk. There's some questions. There's a question thing over here on the side, and I'll ask some questions, and we'll just chat through, and anything you want to add or go off on, go ahead, because you've obviously had a pretty cool, unique experience, and I
Okay.
think that there's a lot of stories to be told.
Okay.
So just give us a little bit of background on you. Where are you from? I know these answers, but these guys don't. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and I started playing, rec soccer when I can't even remember how young I was. I have an older brother that's three years older than me. And got into soccer because my dad played professionally for a little while. He played collegiate soccer as well. So soccer was always in our family through my dad. And my brother got, started really young, and he ended up playing for Sereno for years and then went on to play for University of Virginia, D1 soccer. Ended up winning a national championship there, which was pretty cool. And then he played 2 years in the USL, and then hung it up. But yeah, I kind of followed in my brother's footsteps a little bit, and I was just always in and around soccer since I can't even remember. And I would always join games, kicking the ball around and stuff. And then I joined Sereno, and that's just when my journey kind of began.
yeah, Sereno, rest in peace, since they sold their souls. Uh, so, all right. So tell us a little bit about, obviously, growing up in Arizona. It's probably a soccer community that's actually smaller than what we have in Sacramento, all of Arizona, as far as that size goes. How was it being a youth player there? Were there any unique challenges? I mean, obviously, not training or playing during the summer is
Yeah.
always a challenge. So anything you have to go on there?
Yeah, there was obviously challenges, playing in Arizona throughout the summer just because it's so hot. Um, but I always remind people that it was actually in our favor to play games in the excruciating heat because, we had the leg up on the teams from Cali little. So that
Yep.
was always
Yep.
nice. But yeah, it was soccer really wasn't that, huge when I was little. Growing up in Arizona, it was mostly, football, American football, baseball, all these other sports that were really big. And, I loved Serena since my first practice and tryout there. And, I just fell in love with soccer since I saw my brother playing, and I knew my dad, knew the game well, so I knew I could, pick up little things from him as well. So I also do think that growing up in Arizona was a good environment to grow up in because of um, just like the competition was I felt was pretty good in terms of club to club, like Sereno Blackhawks. They probably you guys don't know that all the clubs that were here when I was playing, but the competition was fairly even. So it was always good. Like state cups and everything were always really fun.
Yes, we did have some battles. Um, any struggles for you in your younger years in your youth career? You've been fairly injury free, I think, but anything that you
Yeah,
can?
yeah, I stayed fairly injury free, which was really nice. I mean, this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but after I had played for Sereno for years and got to play for Real Salt Lake's Academy, I went overseas when I was 16 to play for Liverpool's academy. And, moving to a different country when you're 16 years old definitely isn't, the easiest thing. There's a lot of hardships that come with that. You have to figure out how to live, live by yourself. You have to figure out how to cook. You're thinking about things that, you have to do off the field that you don't really think about when you're playing at home. And I was playing in Arizona, so that was definitely a huge jump for me, and I matured a lot from it. Moving away from home at such a young age, but there was definitely a lot of nights where I was crying and very very homesick. But that happens, and those are the sacrifices that you got to take.
Absolutely. Um, I know the answer to this, but uh, you, I believe, attended one ID2 camp. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I think one or two. I'm on to Dallas twice. I think I went twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you make the international selection?
No.
Okay. So
No.
at 13 years old, you didn't make the international selection. And I want to preface, and I don't say this to rub salt in a wound, but I was
Yeah.
coaching Brooks at that time, and I was working with US Club at that time, or with the ID2 program.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the guys who did make that international selection team?
Yeah, no, I remember a lot of the guys that made the team. Um, Most of the guys that honestly went on to make that trip aren't anymore. A lot of the guys, well, I know one of the I talked to him a lot about it is a guy on my team now, Emerson,
Emerson Hyman.
that in a while, but all the guys that made it, that I knew aren't really, playing anymore, which is crazy. It's just crazy how the world works and the ups and downs you got to go through.
Yeah, yeah. There was, I think there was one little guy at that camp, if I'm not mistaken, and connecting my years incorrectly, who's currently playing at Chelsea. Uh, I think, right? Are you guys the same
I
age? Are you?
I think
You?
he's 1 year younger than me.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not sure if I ever played at I played in the national team with him, but I don't know
Okay.
if he might have been there, but he was a
Yeah.
no name when
Yeah.
he was
He was. We're talking, for those of you who aren't following along. We're talking about Christian Pulisic, who was
yeah,
about 100 pounds, maybe. He
yeah,
was a little boy, but he was a baller even back then.
yeah.
So how did, I mean, if you can remember back to that moment where obviously you didn't make the international selection, this is 8 or 9 years ago now. But how did that impact you? Did it anger you? Did it drive you?
Yeah.
Um,
It no, it impacted me a lot. Obviously, it angered me. I was always questioning, myself. I would say, why am I not being selected? Am I not good enough? What is the reason as to why I'm not going? Because obviously, when you go to these ID2 camps, there's a bunch of players, and you got to be selected. There's a lot of players that get dropped, so you want to be one of those guys that doesn't get dropped and make the international selection, so you can go and play against these cool international clubs. And I remember the 2 years I went, both years I didn't make the international selection, and it really really pissed me off and it angered me, but then I used that as fuel to the fire And, I went back to Sereno, I went back to my club team, and, it made me work that much harder to, to prove those coaches wrong. And so I would just, when I would go out and practice on my own, that's all I would think about. I would just put them in my mind and then just say, I'm going to prove them wrong.
So let's go from there. So you talked about practicing on your own. I believe back in the day, this is before many of the people on this call were alive, but I think we trained 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
What did your at home training schedule look like?
Oh yeah. I mean, we would have probably team training 3 times a week, I would say. I think you're right with that. But I was training all day of the week, whether it was with the team or on my own. Just because I knew I was so dedicated and so focused on my ultimate goal and dream of, one day becoming a professional soccer player, that even after team practice, I would go home and do things in my backyard that, I think I could improve on. And whether that's just juggling, at a young age, I was terrible at juggle. I couldn't even juggle. I couldn't juggle like 10 times in a row. And I remember my brother making fun of me saying, how can you not get 10? And I would just go and practice and practice and practice until I could get, more than him. And, you definitely, I would say the number one thing to, to take things to the next level is working hard and outworking the people around you. So doing extra work is definitely necessary.
Awesome. One thing you just touched on there, I think we have about 700 families in our club, right? So it's a decent sized club. It's not massive, but there's a lot of siblings. There's a lot. Like there was I can't see their screen anymore, but there were 3 of them sitting together watching the video. How did you and your brother Riggs, how did you guys train together or help make each other better?
Yeah, it was really nice having Riggs, just because as I said, he's 3 years older than me. So he had already been through a lot of the things that I was going through when I had started playing. But training together, it was so nice because he could help me on, the things that I'm struggling with. Um, and, he taught me so many things in the backyard, whether it's, dribbling through cones or, shooting, because he was left footed. He's very left footed player. So he would, teach me how to shoot harder with my left foot, and, just basic things that he helped me with that, to this day, I still remember. But it was always nice having him because, when you're on your own training in the backyard, you don't want to be alone. You don't want to just be kicking the ball against the wall and stuff like that. You want someone to, play with and shoot on or whatever it may be. So it was really nice having him, to be honest. And, I credit him a lot for a lot of my success.
And knowing him well, he probably kicked you a lot.
Exactly. Kicked me a lot. He put me in goal a lot. I'm actually a pretty good goalie.
I remember that.
Shoot on me. So yeah, there's a lot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So now, obviously, when you started your youth career or when you were playing, even at Sereno, the development academy was just starting. I don't even think it was maybe but a year old, because I remember us doing all the application process. Obviously, at a certain point, you left Sereno to go to RSL, to Real Salt Lake, because they were at that point in time not based in Salt Lake. They were based. The youth side was based in the middle of nowhere in Arizona. Yeah. So at what age did you make that jump, and how did it how did that change your life and how did it impact you?
I made it at 15. At 15 years old, I was a freshman in high school, and I had finished up my time at Sereno. I knew the time was coming to the end because a lot of the high talented players in club soccer were moving over to the development academy. I got invited to go down to Casa Grande in Arizona and try out for the Real Salt Lake's team. And it was definitely a big decision, which I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are going to, deal with or are dealing with already, that I was a freshman and my brother was a senior in high school. So obviously high school soccer was up in the air as well. And I really, really, really wanted to play high school soccer, because obviously you're the big man on campus playing, varsity soccer, playing with my brother would have been so cool. But again, so you got to sacrifice a lot of things. So I bypassed high school soccer, which was definitely the more fun route to take. I ended up going to Real Salt Lakes Academy. It was a hour 15-minute drive each way all day after school, and dedicate life to going down there and giving it all I had. And luckily, not lucky, good. The good thing is the first year I went, we won the national championship. So that was definitely a good decision on my part. So I never regret, not playing high school soccer. But yeah, it was definitely that was one of the first big sacrifices I had to make, in my soccer career, and I made it, and it was a good decision. And then once I started playing with Real Salt Lakes Academy, that's when I knew things were going to get really serious with me, and if I wanted to take this seriously, then I was on the right path.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you talked about obviously sacrificing things, right? So what are some of the things that you can think back to, maybe in your childhood or even throughout throughout kind of the high school time, and we'll get to England in a little bit, but what are some of the things that you can remember kind of sacrificing that ultimately try to get you to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many sacrifices that I can remember, just because that's obviously the thing. Those are the things that you remember most because you miss out on a lot of things. You know, I know in middle school and high school, you're gonna miss a lot of dances. You're gonna miss all those, whatever, prom or all those things, that come with having just being a normal high school or middle school kid. So missing all those things, having to go. I remember when we were in Serena together, we would even miss Thanksgivings because we would be in Surf Cup. We would be driving to California. So, not having a full Thanksgiving dinner at home with your family because you have a soccer tournament to prepare for. Just, those little things, it might suck when it's happening, and, it really hurts, but, I always remembered that in the long run, to catch back up to me, and it'll be worth it. So, a lot of sacrifices go into, wanting to be great at anything, whether that's being a professional soccer player or whether it's, going on and being, trying to get a job somewhere. It's just, you gotta take sacrifices into account.
So probably more than most on this call so far, you've been through one, two, probably five or six different clubs now at this point in your career, and obviously had a lot of different coaches along the way. What are some key takeaways that you can remember, even, and it could be now, obviously you have a top a former top player as
Yeah.
a coach now. What are some of the things, positive and negative, that you've taken away on your journey?
Yeah, this is a very, very important and big topic for me, because some coaches you're going to really like and some coaches you're not. That's just life, and that's just how the world works. So, you know, there's going to be times when you're on your highest of highs and you're loving life and your coach loves you and you're playing, all the time. And then there's also times when it's not going your way and you're sitting the bench and you're wondering why, what you're doing wrong. Why am I sitting on the bench? What's happening? Am I not working hard enough? Am I doing things wrong? So there's going to be so many ups and downs through coaches that you like, that you don't like, that don't like you for some reason. There's so many exterior factors that come into it. But I can say from my own personal experience, I've had coaches that I've absolutely hated. I've hated them. And those are the times that really make you, and really, you know, you gotta believe in yourself. You never give up on yourself, no matter what anybody says, good or bad. You just stick to, what you believe in, and, know that, you just know your worth and know that you can do it. There's no exterior people that can tell you differently.
One of my smart aleck players that I coach currently said he wanted to know which end I fell on. You don't need to answer that. Don't worry. When we get back to life, Tony, you'll be running. So,
Sorry.
somebody's calling
All right.
his agent.
Yeah.
All right. So as you go through now, obviously you've transitioned. Actually, you know what? I won't go there. I'll go there in a minute. Okay. So you went through RSL. How many years were you at the academy there?
Real Salt Lake's Academy, I was there a year and a half. So I was there my full freshman year of high school. That was the U16 national championship year, and then half a year my sophomore year, and then that's when I made the decision to go to England.
Okay. So let's jump to Liverpool. So obviously 16 years old, here you are, deciding to jump literally across the pond into an environment. Tell us how that process started, and then obviously lay it out as much as you can.
Yeah, so I was playing for Real Salt Lake's Academy. I was going to a bunch of different tournaments, Dallas Cup, doing all these different things for that the Development Academy does. I was also involved with the youth national teams at that time. So I was going to camps and doing international stuff at that time, and then I was over in England on trial for Aston Villa, actually. I went over there to go on trial, and I was on trial there, and there was a Liverpool scout that was there when I was playing in a friendly, and I guess I did pretty good. And so I got invited like a week later to spend a week at Liverpool and go on trial there. I remember I had one friendly at Liverpool, did really well in the friendly, had great practices all week. And then they called me and just said, look, we want to offer you a contract, and, we're ready for you to make the move overseas. And, it's up to you. It's your decision, but, we're definitely ready to have you. So I obviously made that decision, and it was definitely a hard decision to make because I was so young. I didn't want to move away from home. I didn't want to, leave high school and all my buddies and my girlfriend at the time, which I thought was a big deal. But, I said, screw it. This is the only opportunity I'm going to get, and, might as well take it. So I took it, and now I guess it put me in a good place.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some questions in the chat. So obviously at that point, you're talking your sophomore or junior year of high school. You're now living in a foreign country. Are you still going to school?
Yes. Yeah. I'm still going to school. Liverpool had their own schooling for all the players. So we would go, we would train in the mornings actually, and then go straight from training to school all afternoon. So I was very, very busy doing soccer and school at the same exact time. And then once I got my high school diploma, then I could just focus on training, which was, I think, 3 years after. It was my third year I ended up graduating. So.
Okay. I know, let's talk about your playing positionally, right, as you went along. In your younger youth time, what position were you primarily?
I was playing like a winger or like a striker.
Yes. And then as you transition, when you were at RSL, I assume probably something similar.
Yep.
Now, fast forward to 2020, where are you playing?
Right wing back.
Okay.
Right back, right wing back. Yeah.
Yes. And I can remember back in the day having conversations with you about you're going to have to learn how to defend even if you don't like it. So
Exactly.
I'm glad that I wasn't wrong, at least a little bit. So as you went to England, tell me about that. Tell me about that transition, style of play, living. I mean, weather, all those things that we don't even think about when we watch it on TV.
Yeah, no, style of play, very, very physical, very fast pace. I definitely wasn't used to, the pace of play. Right when I got there, I was shocked at how good they were. That's what they live, breathe, that's it. Soccer, soccer all day. Even at school, we would go train in the mornings, we'd go to school, and every opportunity at school, we'd be out in the back kicking the ball around. So, the, level of play was very fast. Those kids are, very tough kids. A lot of the, young English kids are very tough. So you got to get used to, getting knocked down and, might get an elbow in the face because, they're saying, hey, look at this young American kid coming over trying to take my position, maybe I'll give him get a little something, maybe a little elbow or something like
A
that
little
in
extra.
training. You just got to, suck it up, get up and keep fighting. And, you're going to earn your stripes through, not complaining, not, going to your coaches after training. You just suck it up and you get up and, hit them back. That's literally all I did. And you earn your respect through that. But yeah, off the field was very, very, very hard. Rains every single day there, dark, cloudy, not definitely not Arizona weather for sure. So that was definitely a huge shock for me. Also, the food, is not very great. So I had to figure out how to go to the grocery store and, FaceTime my parents and figure out how to make chicken so I don't kill myself. So yeah, it was a lot of good experiences, a lot of bad experiences, but as I said earlier, I matured very, very quickly over there. And after a year there, I came back to Arizona and I was like, I'm a whole different person. I was just so much more mature, and I knew what I wanted in life, and you know I had already gone through so many ups and downs, and but I got through it. So
Beauty. I'm glad you didn't kill yourself trying to cook some chicken. Your Liz would not have been very happy.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that's great. So let's talk more about the football, right? So obviously you're in now the best club in England, although they still may not get their trophy this year, ironically.
yep,
Um, you're in one of the best clubs in the world at this point in time, fighting every day. Um, I assume with the ultimate goal of obviously getting to the first team and being
yep,
around that environment.
yep.
Give us a little bit of a rundown on that. Obviously, you're in the youth teams. What does that look like? Are you training up? Do you get a sniff up with the first team? Are the guys around, etc.?
Yeah. So at Liverpool, the way it works is they set up their academy, the locker rooms in the training facility in terms of like leveling up. And then their academy is a different facility than the first team. So Melwood is the training facility that the first team trains at, and it's just first team only. And then the academy is, from the little ones all the way up until the reserves. And they literally have, pictures of Raheem Sterling and all these guys, Steven Gerrard, that started at the youth level and just went from locker room to locker room and just leveled up. And that's just the path of success that you got. So you just, every day those kids they go into their U16 changing room and they're like, I hope in 1 year I'm good enough to make the U18 squad. And that's just, they're so focused on being selected and getting, trying to get an opportunity to get a new contract that next year to be able to, move on up to that next, changing room. And a lot of, I would say, I need to say this because a lot of guys, will level up. They'll go from U16 straight into the reserves. And you might think, he's on my team, why am I not doing that? But the number one thing that my parents always told me, and that is very important, is don't focus on anyone else's success. Don't focus on if your best friend on the team is training with the first team and you're not, don't worry about that. Just focus on what you can control. And, that's showing up to practice every day on time, ready to rock and roll. And, your time will eventually come if you're doing the right things. So yeah, it kind of just went like that. I started as a U16, leveled up to U18s that next year, got offered a new contract. And then when I eventually got to the U23 team, which was the reserve team, that's when I started getting a little, sniffs here and there to the first team. And so, you get invited, you get a call when you get to the training facility in the morning, like, hey, you're not training with us this morning, you're going to Melwood. So then there's a taxi that takes you, from the academy to Melwood. And, just that car ride, you're like, wow, I'm training with the big boys. So this is, it's not, and my first training, I remember I was like starstruck, and I was like, wow, look at, there's Steven Gerrard and Felipe Coutinho and all these really, amazing players. But then you realize, look, I'm trying to take their spot. I'm trying to make this team. So there's no more, you can't be starstruck or whatever it may be. You got to be ready to, battle. And that was a really cool, day for me, my first time training at Melwood. But then, yeah. And once you start getting into that little rhythm of getting called in, then that's, it helps.
So Brooks, you just hit on something that it's my wife is on the other side of the house watching this and listening to it, and she just sent me a text and says, "Don't focus on anybody else's success."
Yeah.
Right? Like how hard was that? How hard
Yeah.
is that when you see guys that we all have it, right? I'm better than him. What's
Mhm.
going? Why? How did you manage that?
Yeah. No, it's super, super tough. When you see a guy that, personally, I saw many kids that were in and around my team that were on the same, training pitches as me every single day, that would go to Melwood, 4 or 5 times a week, and I was going 1 time a week. And they would get the call in the morning, and I wouldn't, and I would have to train with, my team. And sometimes when you guys going off on a taxi to go train at Melwood, and you're not in that taxi and you're staying with your team, it's kind of hard to, get yourself to, go full effort in that training session. And I remember plenty of times, going home and calling my parents and be like, I'm coming home. Like, there's no, like, I'm done. That's it. And because I was just so fed up with seeing these kids that I thought, everyone has their own opinion and everything, but I personally thought that I was doing better and performing, you know, better than in practice, and they were still getting the call. And I'll never forget, both my parents were like, you cannot focus on their success. That's their journey. They're getting their time now. Maybe the coaches see that they're a little bit more physical than you right now, but you might be more, technical. But the coaches, there's always a reason why things happen. And so you just got to be patient and stay focused on what you can control. And that's showing up every day, like I said, on time, ready to rock and roll and battle, you know, like it's your last practice. And when you focus on yourself and you don't focus on anyone else's success, that's when things start, going your way.
I couldn't put that any more precisely. That's fantastic. You've talked a lot about your parents, right? And I know your parents well. Um, they are successful. They're smart. They're driven people, and I know that they've instilled that, I think, at some level in you and your brother. What's the best thing they ever did for you to help you be successful, or maybe the best advice?
Well, yeah, I think number one is both my parents have always been very, truthful with me, whether it hurts or, or whether it's really nice. I've always, my dad, till this day, I call my parents, after every game still, even though, even with playing in the world, and my parents are brutally honest. My dad, I'll say, look, I'll tell you when you played bad, and I'll say it to you. I'm not scared. And, I think that really helped me because, sometimes I see, younger kids, when they get told that they didn't play very well, or, they didn't get the news that they want to hear, sometimes they, they can get a little, discouraged and, sad, and they don't know what to do and all this stuff. But my dad will straight up tell me, look, I thought you were the best player on the pitch tonight, and that's how you need to show up and play every single day, and that's the focus that you need throughout 90 minutes. Or he'll tell me, look, you got beaten, guy, took the ball from me, he scored, and I can't sugarcoat it. You lost. That's your fault, and it sucks when it's like a dagger to the heart, but it's truthful and he's honest. So I know when I play well and I know when I don't. And sometimes I said there's some parents that can sugarcoat things a little too much, and I think their honesty and truthfulness definitely helped me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's continue through the Liverpool piece, right? So you were in the 21s, I think. Is that right?
Liverpool, yeah, U21.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so obviously, because I remember you came and played against the Republic actually here in Sacramento. I
Oh,
think that
yeah,
was one of the last
yeah,
times I saw you. So I think that was towards the end of your time. How did that end? Did they not offer you another contract?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So they had actually offered me a new contract. I had turned 18 years old. Um, and long story short, there's a lot of like very strict work permit stuff, that goes into living in England. And when you turn 18, you become an independent on your own visa. So there were some visa issues that were going on, and I also wasn't getting, enough of the first team that I would have hoped. Because at that time, when you're 18 years old, you want to be, training with the first team every single day, and also, getting on the bench for Premier League games. So you want to be in and around the squad. I wasn't, I know I was training with them a lot, but I wasn't getting, called in to go and play. And at 18 years old, that's a very, very critical time, in your life, that you need to make a decision as like, I need to be playing. And the number one thing that I've always said is you just need to play. It doesn't matter if you're playing, for Liverpool or, back in the MLS or whatever. You just need to get minutes. You need to get first team experience. You need to get minutes. You need to learn, how first team football works, because it's much different than academy soccer. And it's a whole different level. So I ended up going back on. I declined the contract that Liverpool had offered me because I had to. There was no other ways to get around the visa issue, and so I knew I had to go on loan outside of England. And I was looking at a couple clubs in Europe, but then Real Salt Lake's academy, because I had played for them, they knew that I was looking to leave Liverpool, and so they immediately offered me to come to Salt Lake, and sign with the first team. And so I took that opportunity, and then went back to the MLS.
Yep. All right. So now you're back at RSL.
Yeah.
You're in Salt Lake. I think there was a number of guys that you kind of came through the academy with, right? That ended up in that group. They've been
Yeah.
one of the more successful.
Yeah.
How was it transitioning from U21 Liverpool football to the MLS and trying to jump into the first team?
Yeah, it was actually an easier transition than I thought. Number one, because of pace of play, style of play. I was already way ahead of the curve in terms of like pace of play. Like MLS, not saying anything bad about MLS, but when you're training with Liverpool's first team, that's the highest that you can go. So, going back and training with Real Salt Lake's first team, yes, I was a little little bit physically smaller than some of the guys, but technically, and I was very, I was right there with the best guys on the team, and the pace of play, I was used to it, within the first week. And so, it was a very easy transition for me, but it was a little bit different because when you're playing U21 football in England, you're playing with guys that are all your age and kind of, you can hang out with them after practice and, they're just your buddies. But when you go into first team football, guys have families, they've got kids, they're much older than you. So that was definitely something that I had to get used to. And there's definitely a very competitive side that comes with that. Like, look, dude, you're a young kid that's trying to come and take my position, and I'm here to get a new contract so I can provide for my wife and kids. And that's really puts things into perspective when you're on the field trying to compete for a spot. But luckily the squad that I went into at RSL, everyone was very welcoming and warming for me, which was good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've gotten this question like 10 times, so I'm going to ask it and then we'll get back on track.
Okay.
Do you have a player or a person that's been your kind of inspiration or somebody that you aspire to be like?
Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo. Just because
I knew the answer to that before I asked the
I was gonna ask you. I think you know this, but no, yeah, he's just been my inspiration since I've been really, really little. Not because he's the best player in the world, but because of his hard work and dedication and what he puts into off the field.
Yeah, early on there were some comments about that you actually look like Ronaldo, so you can take that for whatever you want from the
I'll
audience.
take the compliment. I love that.
Yeah, one of our directors is Portuguese, and he would cut off his right arm to be able to hug Ronaldo. So you made his day right there.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, so let's talk through a little bit, because obviously I don't want to keep you, and we got a 7:30 stop because we got to get some of these guys out of here. Let's talk about your time at RSL. Did you guys win anything? How did that go?
The first year we didn't win anything. No, we lost. We didn't even make the playoffs. We missed the playoffs by 1 point. So no, we didn't win anything. So overall as a team, we didn't do great. But it was my first year in the MLS, which was pretty cool. I had my MLS, debut that year. I had my first MLS goal, which was pretty cool. But yeah, no, nothing very big.
Okay. How many years were you with the first team there? 2 or 3?
3. The first year I was on loan from Liverpool. The second year, yeah, and then I was there 2 years full. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the next 2 years. How was that?
Well, the second year, I'm trying to think. The second year was a very, very good year for me, but very interesting year. I had played left or right wing or striker my whole entire life, and actually the first year that I was there, the first year I was at RSL, our last game of the season, our starting right back tore his ACL, so he was going to be out the whole next season. And we had we signed a couple guys in the off season that were going to play right back, and I was on the roster as a winger at the time. And I think the first 2 games of the season I didn't start. Actually, the first game of the season I wasn't even rostered. I wasn't rostered the first game of the season against Dallas, and then the second game of the season was at home. We got killed by LAFC, and I think like the last 20 minutes of that game, my coach pulls me up from the bench and is like, "Can you play right back?" And I'm like, "Sure, like, yeah, of course I can play right back." Because I just want to be on the field. I'm like, yeah, I can play goalie if you want.
Exactly. So I want everybody to hear that right now. He was not a right back, but he wanted to play so badly. He would have played. He would have refereed. He would have played goalkeeper.
Yeah. No, I didn't care where I played. I just wanted to be on the field, because sitting on the bench watching your team, is not the best feeling in the world. So he just pulled me over and he's like, "Can you play right back?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can play right back." And he put me in for like the last 15 minutes of the game. I played pretty well in those 15 minutes. You can't do much in 15 minutes, in soccer. It's tough, but I played well, then started the next game at right back. So first ever game, first ever time starting game at right back is like in an MLS game against Red Bulls, who's like one of the best teams in the East. And played very, very well, got man of the match that game. And from the third game, up until the game that we lost in playoffs. I started and played 90 minutes at right back every game. So
that's awesome.
it was
So,
a
so
quick
any
game.
advice for players that that don't like to play in specific positions?
Oh, no, I mean, there's no liking it or not. I mean, that's just for me. I don't care if I'm playing goalie. I don't care if I'm playing striker. It doesn't matter. I just want to be on the field competing, and helping my team win. But there definitely is a transition period. I can't lie. I was definitely thinking, oh, now my stats aren't going to be as great as they used to be. I'm not going to get as many assists or maybe goals, as I would hope. But I don't really like defending. I'm not that good of a 1v1. I was thinking all these things, because now I have to go against the best wingers in the league, and I don't, I'm a terrible 1v1 defender. All these things, and that's when it really kicked in. Like, look, your coach wants you to play right back. You're gonna be the right back. There's no questions asked. So you better get used to playing right back. So I remember going back to practicing, after practice, I would literally sit out there with our defensive coach for like an hour and be like, I just get players come and take me one-on-one so I can just work on one-on-one defending. Because I had never worked on one-on-one defending as an outside back in my whole entire life. And now I'm in the MLS playing professionally trying to do it. So it's like, it was definitely a very fast learning curve, but I definitely had a lot of extra time that I was working.
That's awesome. I actually remember I was watching that game, and I remember you going in it right back, and my thoughts were probably similar to yours. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's fast forward. So now, for those of you who don't know, Brooks in December got traded from Real Salt Lake over to Atlanta United, who obviously have had an incredible run over the last few years after they got started. How was that process for you? Because I remember texting you right before Christmas, but how was the process for you? Did you expect it? Was it kind of out of left field? How does it feel to be traded?
Yeah, no, it's a very weird feeling. I knew I wanted to be traded, so I knew a change was going to happen. I knew my time at RSL had come. I didn't, I wanted new challenges, and just a new atmosphere. So I knew there was going to be a change coming, but there was several other teams that were, up in the air. And I knew all along that Atlanta United was interested in me because they had, shown interest through my previous seasons at RSL. And so, when I expressed that I was going to leave Real Salt Lake and I saw Atlanta was their first team calling, I was very, very shocked and excited. And, I was in the back of my head, I was hoping that Atlanta was going to be the team that I was going to land at. And luckily, it happened. And now, I'm in Atlanta, and I would say, on the best team in MLS.
Well, we hope that you get back to that shortly. Although
Yeah.
Coach Vanny may have something to say about it. So
hey, I'm ready for that. I've battled with him a couple of times, and I'm ready for more.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, when I coached Brooks, Greg Vanny and I were the coaches of the team. He's now the Toronto FC head coach. So Brooksy sees him on a regular basis. They have their Eastern Conference battle. All right. So now you're in Atlanta. You've obviously been there for a few months. How is it playing in front of 70,000 people?
It's amazing. It's incredible. I don't know if there's words that can describe it, but it's, a humbling experience. It's it was a very proud moment for me to, start in front of 70,000 fans with my, family in the stands watching me. And, when you really put things into perspective and you think about things, all those, soccer practices that my parents took me to, and my brother was in the stands, and seeing him and all those, all the time and hours that we spent in the backyard, together to, have it eventually come to me playing in front of 70,000 fans in the MLS and Mercedes-Benz Stadium is pretty incredible. But, I would say in the time, you're not really thinking about it. You're just so focused on the game and what's going on and how to, perform well. But when open your lens and see the whole picture, it's a very proud moment.
It's awesome. So now your coach is Frank DeBoer, right? And he's a very, for most of the kids on this call have no idea, but one of the best players, the guys that I looked up to growing up, one of the best Dutch players forever. How is it playing for him?
Oh, it's amazing. It's so nice. He is very, very detail oriented. Knows exactly what he wants from you. He knows what he wants from the team as a whole. He's been doing these same, calls with us, individually in this crazy, time in the world. He'll sit down with you and he'll be, I had a call with him 2 days ago and he just said, look, let's go over some film. Let's go over some good clips, bad clips. I want you to explain to me what you're doing wrong in this clip. And then he'll show me a good clip and say, look, this is exactly what you need to be doing. So very, very detail oriented. It's pretty cool to play under a guy that's played at the highest level, because he knows what it takes and, some of the hardships that come with it. But yeah, he's an incredible coach and as well, really, really good person off the field. He's a guy that, you could call up in the middle of the night and he'll help you if you're in some trouble. And that's always, helpful to know that you have a friend, but also a coach that'll get on you. But, he also wants the best out of you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So let's transition to this piece now, right? So obviously, with the coronavirus and COVID-19 and all of this stuff going on, how has that impacted you? I know you're not in Atlanta. I know you're home in Arizona. Mm-hmm. What are you doing to stay ready and to stay fit?
Yeah. So I'm doing Atlanta United's fitness plan that they have for us. So I'm basically going on, runs in the mornings. I'll do different types of runs that, I have to do, whether it's a 30-minute, conversation pace jog around the neighborhood, or whether it's, in my backyard, setting up a couple cones and doing some sprints back and forth. And then sometimes they have us doing like circuits, they'll have us push-ups and sit-ups and, body weight stuff that you can do in your house or your backyard. And then they set a specific time for us to be on the ball. So they've really wanted us to not only keep our fitness up, but stay on the ball and do, specific exercises, whether it's, I honestly have just been doing what I did when I was young and just juggling and, dribbling through cones, cutting, faking, doing all the feints that I would normally do in a game. You can't really shoot right now because I can't because I don't have a goal in my backyard, but I'm sure a lot of you guys do. But just trying to mimic things that I would do in the game, not doing anything that I wouldn't do in a game, and then off the field doing a lot of mental preparation. I've been reading a lot, which is good, but yeah, doing a lot of. We have like a guy that we talk to in terms of like mental preparation and how to go through these tough times and stay focused and dedicated. And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing, but I'm definitely doing stuff. I'm not just sitting on my couch eating chips.
Yeah, but I'm doing that for you. Don't worry. As are most of our coaching staff.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna roll through. Christian, one of our guys asked, and I know that you're an avid FIFA player. Do you use yourself in FIFA?
Do I use myself?
Yes.
I haven't with Atlanta yet, but I used to play all the time with Real Salt Lake. Yeah, I used to play with myself, and I would of course put myself up top.
Yeah, absolutely. So would I if I could still play. Love it. Let's see. We got some other. So from a physical perspective, this is a question that came in. It's actually an interesting one that I wouldn't have thought to ask. With the league and the MLS being so spread out and going all over the place, how do you deal with the physical kind of wear and tear of flying across the country and playing in a game, then flying on, jet lag, physical recovery?
Yeah, that's very tough. That is one very big thing in the MLS that's tough, because flying from Atlanta to play LAFC, it's going to be a long flight, and you fly so I'm in the Eastern Conference now, and when we play Western Conference teams, you fly on, say the game's Saturday night, you'll fly today. So you'll train in the morning, fly in the afternoon on Thursday, and you'll be there all of Friday. You'll train there Friday and then play Saturday night and then come back on Sunday. So it's a lot of traveling. There's so much, cross-country travel, which is very tough. So, using those times to get the best recovery in possible, using, whatever foam roller or whatever recovery resources that you have. Also, not just being on your phone or your computer all day, every single day in the hotel room, because professional sports is a lot of, alone time. So using that time wisely and not just flicking through Instagram or Twitter or whatever it may be, trying to, pick up a book and read it, or, look at film on yourself. There's also a lot of things that you can do outside of soccer. Maybe, a lot of the guys on the team take classes, college classes. So just trying to do things that will help you in the long run.
So obviously, what are you, 22 now?
22, yeah.
Come on, you're just a baby. Do you still have, not do you still have, I know you still have, what are your goals for the next steps in your career?
Well, short-term goals is, number one is make the Olympic qualifying roster. I know there's
we didn't even touch on the national team stuff. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's craziness going around with the virus in the Olympics right now, but it's still on I have a goal sheet. So that's still on it as of right now. But yeah, making the Olympic qualifying roster and then qualifying for the Olympics, because I think going to the Olympics eventually would be, a dream come true for me. So that's national team. For Atlanta United, I've marked down that I want to get, 8 to 10 assists, at right wing back. There's a certain amount of games that I've, picked out or a certain percentage of games that I have picked out that I wanted to start in and play in. So working towards that little goal. And then eventually long-term goals is to be a full men's national team player, go to a World Cup one day. I think that's everyone's dream as a kid, to play for your country in a World Cup, and then win a championship with Atlanta. I think going and winning MLS Cup or Open Cup or whatever, whatever league or championship we're fighting for, trying to win things with Atlanta, and then eventually going back over to Europe and playing, at the highest level, because I've always wanted to play at the highest level and reach my highest potential. And I know personally, I believe in myself, and I think that I can play at the highest level, whether that's in England or, in Germany or Italy or wherever it may be, but playing at the highest level for sure.
Awesome. All right. Let me think if there's anything else. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you. You have a San Juan alumni on your team, Adam John.
Really?
Yes. So,
just Stanford boy.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So I'm going to unmute. We have one of our coaches here, Derek Evans, who coached him back in the day. He's actually an ex-Olympian as well. I'm going to unmute Derek, see if he's got anything to say to you.
Okay.
Hey, Brooks. How are you, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Just want to say thank you. Outstanding in terms of giving us information. I think all of our youth players are very excited about following a path and understanding how to set your goals and how to achieve it. So thank you again for great information. But when you do see Adam, give him our best. Tell him that it was great. Maybe he can join us some other time when time permits. But hopefully you'll see him soon, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure he would love to come on. He's a great. Yeah, hopefully we can get back to the swing of things soon and hit the ground running.
Yeah, I see him on Instagram quite a bit, and he says that he can't wait to get back on the pitch. So you guys say, hey, good luck and have a great season, man. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, Brooksy. Well, hey, you've obviously been super generous with your time. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Hey, if any of these guys want to follow you on social media, what's your what are you at Brooks Lennon?
Yeah, I'm basically at Brooks Lennon on everything.
Okay.
At Brooks Lennon on everything. And the last thing I would say is just use this time. I know it sucks, but we're all at homes at home, with a bunch of time on our hands. So I would use this time to set out goals for yourself individually and as a team or as a whole. And I think that'll help you because waking up in the morning and going out every day to goals that you've set for yourself is a lot easier than waking up and not having anything to work towards. So that's probably the last thing I would say is use this time wisely to set goals for yourself. And whether that's a short-term goal, like it could be a daily goal. I set myself daily goals, whether that's completing 500 push-ups in a day. It could be something like that, or it could be reading 3 chapters in my new book. It could literally be short-term goals like that, but it makes waking up and getting after it a lot easier.
Awesome. Yeah. You're the man, dude. Hey, do me a favor, give your parents a hug for me. I appreciate you. I'll catch up with you. I'm going to post this on YouTube. I'll send you the link. That will be the end of our first Together Thursday. Obviously, a massive thank you to Alicia Jenkins and Brooks Lennon for their time. Brooksy, we'll talk to you soon. Stay healthy.
Sounds good.
Everybody else, talk to you guys soon. Take care. Be good.
All right. See you guys.
Later, bud.